Today, we interviewed a billionaire. Have you ever interviewed a billionaire before?
First time.
First time. What exactly is an FLQA?
And what percentage of Amazon does
Bezos owns like 10%.
He's a billionaire.
Yeah.
People think that you have to own 100% of something, and they won't give pieces of the pie away.
Once you get people thinking like owners, they treat the business differently. They treat the company differently, for sure.
Let's make sure that we're rewarding the younger agent. It's actually more well-rounded in terms of the rev share.
We're a family, kumbaya.
We're a family, but if you watch their actions,
No.
their actions are completely different
Agreed.
than what they're saying. So this is the part that I was tripping out. How much production would you have to do to own a piece of your brokerage?
I always ask agents, I'm like, did you go to the office? And they're like, no. And I'm like, did it matter? Let's check it out.
Hey everybody, Jose Luis Morales here and
Aaron Novello, and we have with us the founder of EXP himself, Mr. Glenn Sanford. We really appreciate you taking some time to be with us here today, Glenn. And I wanted to say to you formally, thank you very much for the opportunity, for seeing what it is that you saw, and for having the kind of mindset and the mental map that as you give away pieces of the pie gets bigger for everybody.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's the and that is the sort of the basic secret. You saw the one slide yesterday. Somebody had the Zig Ziglar quote: "You can have anything you want in life if you just help other people get what they want."
Yes.
And that's the whole idea. That's the idea of the pie always getting bigger, based on creating ways to help more people.
Yeah, and maybe you can talk a little bit about that very big decision, which is directly in alignment with that, which is to lower the amount of FLQAs that are required in order to unlock all 7 levels. Was that part of that decision-making process?
Yeah.
When Glenn was answering that question, I wanted to break that down, right? Because one of the questions that me and Jose get all the time is, what exactly is an FLQA? And it stands for Frontline Qualifying Agent. And what it means is that if you have brought somebody to the company and they've put you down as the reason why they joined the company, then if they do at least $5,000 worth of commission dollars to EXP, right? So there's a $16,000 cap, and as long as they pay $5,000 towards that cap, they become an FLQA. And the FLQAs, the certain number of them, they unlock subsequent lines of rev share. Now, this is a very key distinction, because some of the things that me and Jose, people have been sharing with us is they think, about like Real or these other companies. And what I want to share with you right now is that Real has a different compensation plan where you must have a certain amount of FLQAs in order to unlock subsequent lines of rev share. And if you don't have those FLQAs, you will receive no rev share on those subsequent lines. Versus with EXP, you will receive rev share on subsequent lines even if you don't have the appropriate number of FLQAs. It just won't be the full amount. So if you're interested and sincerely going to be focused on agent attraction, that's a super key distinction between compensation plans.
Yeah. What I liked about that part of the interview too is I liked how you opened it up with a compliment.
Well, thank you.
So I think that's a really good way to start and I've noticed you do that a lot of times.
Yeah.
Whenever you start talking to somebody, you either say, "Oh, I watched this video of yours," or "I appreciate you," or "I appreciate that."
Yeah.
I think that's a gift. So just want to compliment you on that.
Thanks, brother.
The other thing that I noticed is that he said if you help enough people get what they want in life, you can have anything that you want.
Yeah.
And that's really the key to having anything that you want in life, is you're helping other people get what they want. So like, even as I transition more into rev share, what I'm thinking, hey, I'm going to help people produce more in real estate,
Which is what they want.
and that's going to give me everything that I want and need, basically. But in order for me to get to what I want, I got to help them get to what they want.
Yeah, that's critical. And the other thing that I want everybody to be clear on too is that EXP very recently made a big change. And the change is previously the compensation plan was in order to unlock all 7 levels. So in other words, in order to get full rev share on all 7 levels, you're still going to get it on all 7 even if you don't have the appropriate frontline qualifying agents. In order to get the full amount, in the past you needed 40 FLQAs. So you needed 40 agents that you personally have recruited that have paid at least $5,000 in company dollar, right? So they do a few transactions a year, and they recently lowered that to 30.
Yeah.
And what was so interesting, and what you'll see when we, go back to the video, is the thought behind that. The reason behind that is that Glenn wanted to make that more attainable for more agents, right? Which I think is awesome. And in my opinion, it's also slamming the kind of the gas pedal down, in terms of growth. And again, that goes in alignment with as you make the pie, as you give pieces of the pie away, the pie gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
That you read my mind about sharing a piece of the pie. A lot of people think that the way to make it is to sometimes even run their own company or start their own company.
Yeah.
And they'd rather own 100% of a $500,000 company versus 1% of a $1 billion
That's
company.
right.
Like what is Amazon? What percentage of Amazon does
Bezos own? Like 10%.
Of Amazon.
Yeah.
And he's that 10%.
He's like one of the richest guys in the world, if not the richest.
He's a billionaire.
Yeah.
So
same with Elon. He only owns like 20% of like his company.
And that's what I love about that. Like a lot of times people think that you have to own 100% of something, like any type of business, and they won't give pieces of the pie away, not knowing that if you give pieces of the pie away, it actually builds a much bigger pie. And even if you have a 10% percentage, like maybe somebody like Glenn or Elon or Jeff Bezos, that you're still a billionaire in that sense.
Yeah.
And now everybody's in alignment as to what the goal is.
Yeah.
Because everyone's thinking like an owner now.
100%. And that's one of the things that we talked about, which is that what it does is it creates an environment in which all of the agents and all of corporate, they feel a sense of ownership versus having like a king at the top or a queen and they own the majority. This is distributed amongst others. And once you get people thinking like owners, they treat the business differently. They treat the company differently, for sure.
Not only that, but it allows you to attract A players as well too, because it's an A opportunity.
Yep.
Like for example, like I have a broker's license. I could open up my own real estate company if I wanted to. I know agents in my market that opened up their own brokerage. And I'm like, well, why would I go through that where this gives me everything?
You can outsource the brokerage to EXP
without any of the negative or downsides of a brokerage, basically. So
that's awesome.
Cool.
All right, so let's get back to it.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that we recognized is that for very diligent agents that are really building, there were a couple things. One, the economy is a little tougher, so we got agents that are just leaving the business less productive. So it's harder to open up those bigger levels.
Sure.
And then two was we wanted to make it more achievable for the average agent who actually put in the work.
Sure.
And so those are the two things that we thought about. Obviously, we've got some we'll call it some formulas in terms of how we structure the sustainable rev share and adjusted GCI. And the idea was, one, let's make it a little bit easier to get to the larger payouts, but then also at the same time, let's make sure that we're rewarding the younger agent that's in agent attraction as well. So we're kind of bumping up levels 1 through 3 payouts through our AGCI program, and then using some of that other monies to go there. And it really makes it a much more democratized rev share model. And that's really sort of the democratization. So it's not just a select few. It's actually more well-rounded in terms of the rev share.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So my takeaway from that is that by augmenting and making it easier to unlock all 7 levels, it's actually being purposeful and intentional to help more people participate at a higher level.
So he's basically giving more money away.
Yes.
What I love about this part, it just showcases how great of a CEO Glenn Sanford is.
Yeah.
I think one of the models that he has is that EXP is the most agent-centric company, meaning that they're consistently going to be making decisions that improve agents' lives. And this is one of those decisions right there. So what came to my mind is there's a lot of companies out there, or a lot of people that will say, I've got your best interest at heart. I'm going to take care of you.
We're a family, kumbaya.
We're a family. But if you watch their actions,
No.
their actions are completely different
Agreed.
than what they're saying. So my key takeaway from here is when somebody's telling you something, yeah, listen to what they're saying, but pay attention to the actions that they're doing.
That's right.
So when I see actions like this, it tells me that his heart and his vision is in the right place for the company.
Agreed. 100%.
Other companies are increasing fees.
Yeah. Well, even then, like I heard this today, like somebody said that one of the companies might be decreasing profit share to a lower percentage.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, I'm like, okay, they are telling you that they like you. They are telling you that they want to help you. But those little decisions, like there's a guy making $1 million. Those little decisions cut his income in half to $500,000.
That's right.
Because of a decision that is not really in alignment with helping the agents.
That's agreed. Yeah, 100%. And while companies are increasing fees and reducing what they give to agents, EXP is increasing and lowering boundaries.
Yeah, to make it more achievable.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We're bumping up levels 1, 2, and 3 to increase the AGI. Does that mean that you're going to get paid more on levels 1, 2,
I don't
and 3?
know. I don't know what that means.
That's something, like if he said that, that is big, bro.
Yeah.
That is almost as big as reducing the amount of agents to unlock all 7 levels. We gotta find that out. We got to find that out, because if he is doing
what is it called? The A what?
Like, watch this. Listen to this part again. And this is the part that I was tripping out when I
Let's
heard
make it a little bit easier to get to the larger payouts, but then also at the same time, let's make sure that we're rewarding the younger agent that's in agent attraction as well. So we're kind of bumping up levels 1 through 3 payouts through our AGCI program, and then using
levels
some
1,
of that
2, 3
other
through our
monies to go there.
AGCI program. What is AGCI?
Adjusted gross commission income. It's part of the rev share model. I just don't know what it means. So when he's saying that, what I'm thinking that means is that there's going to be larger payouts potentially on levels 1, 2, and 3. Or it means if you haven't unlocked levels 2 and 3, that they may pay more on the fact that even if you haven't unlocked the levels. That's what I'm thinking.
I think it's probably the second.
The second, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which that's still
great.
Big right there.
It's huge.
You know, like meaning if you have agents in your second, third, fourth level, like without unlocking them.
That's good. But I think for us to get clarity around that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Really makes it a much more.
By the way, that was one of the things that went over my head.
Yeah.
Where when he said it, it didn't.
I thought he was referring to shrinking the amount of frontline qualifying agents, but that's a nuance.
This is
because he said increasing levels 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Which means that he'll probably allow for more to be paid out if you don't have the full
frontline
qualifying agents. So it may not be the full amount, but it'll be more than what you were getting before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
which is still big.
Yeah, it's big.
Once again, it's one of those decisions that is an alignment.
No, and your point is so interesting. It's like when you have owners whose interests are in alignment, then you make different decisions, right? It makes me think about like Vanguard, or like, where they, all of the investors in Vanguard own Vanguard. So what they do is if there is a savings, they pass it on in the form of lower expense ratios for their index funds. So we all benefit. And this is precisely the formula that Glenn and the executive team is using. Yeah. Which is if there's a way, they're going to give back to the owners. And 70% of the company is owned by agents and their founders.
Say it again?
70% of EXP
70%
is owned by agents and their founders. So it's a truly owned agent, like an agent company. And they're a part of the S&P 600, which I don't think people really understand how massive that is, because that's an index that you can't pay to get into. You can't politic your way into it. It's just based on economics and the way a business is run. And it's a self-cleansing mechanism. So people are familiar with the S&P 500. Those are the 500 largest large cap companies in the United States. And the S&P 600 is the 600 largest mid cap companies in the United States. And when I say self-cleansing, meaning like if a company doesn't fit the criteria anymore, they kick them out and bring a new one in.
Yeah.
What's your philosophy on practicing scripts? Like practice every day, like chant a lot, like write it out a lot, like role play a lot. What's your like?
Yeah, so there's a hierarchy of learning. At the bottom of the hierarchy of learning is reading and writing, which is the lowest form of learning, right? Which is interesting because that's how we get our formal education. as you go up the hierarchy of learning, the second highest form of learning is simulation, which is where you pretend to do the real thing. So doctors simulate on cadavers, pilots simulate in a device actually called a simulator before we let them on a real plane with people. And then the highest form of learning is doing the real thing, right? So if you want to ramp up the learning curve, and you do all of them every day. So you read, write, simulate, do the real thing. Read, write, role play, do the real thing. Read, write, role play, do the real thing. Read, write, role play, do the real thing, right? Because repetition is the mother of learning and the father of action, which makes it the architect of accomplishment. So that's how you can get it to be ingrained where you don't have to think about it anymore. You know what I'm saying? That's why when you hear me and Jose on like, Clubhouse or whatever, I don't have to think about what to say anymore because I've spent a nauseating amount of time practicing it. Now I can focus on you, I can focus on facial expressions, I can focus on your tonality, I can focus on, right, other things. I already know what you're going to say before you even say it, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So I would do all of those. And what I did is, that's what I did. So I read, wrote, role played twice a day. Like I practiced role play twice a day, 6 days a week. I did that for 3 years. And I would chant scripts and I would hand write out the listing presentation. But I did that every day. And I would prospect.
So your time spent on skill development or scripts is like what? Like you're spending like close to 2 to 3 hours?
It was like 2 hours probably every day. But it was a nauseating amount of time. But that's why, bro. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So let's say you only practice 30 minutes versus 2 hours, bro.
Yeah. And then
In a month, a year.
Yeah. And then those people doing 30 minutes, they think they're the shit. And I'm like, okay.
And how did you develop? Like, obviously, I'm assuming you're writing out like the old scripts, right?
Yep.
And then how did you develop your
Kind of flavor.
your flavor? Because I know you say a lot. There's a couple of phrases that you use a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's from doing the real thing. So I would just do the real thing and, I would, I don't know, say something.
And then be like, oh, that worked.
That worked. That was
Let me try that again.
Let me try that again. And then I also remember, because I was role playing with like
Badass agents.
badasses, you know what I mean? Like people, when I started role playing with Neil, I was doing 50 deals. He was doing 200.
Yeah.
So I would role play with,
Neil did.
yeah, he had his own flavor. So I would role play with people that were just playing at really high levels, and I'd learn stuff from them. So it's like a combination of, me coming up with stuff and then just kind of taking stuff from other people that I would hear and be like, oh, that was really good. Oh, that works in that particular dynamic.
Do you believe each presentation should be like have its own flavor, or should it be like a legitimately canned sort of thing? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think it should be structured for sure. Yeah, like winging it is for chumps, bro.
yeah.
Yeah, that's like kind of asking a professional football team, like, do you think you guys should run plays?
Right. I guess I don't mean like legitimately can, but like, should it be like this portion we're gonna do this, and sometimes I say different things here.
No, we do the same thing every time.
I've been around guys that kind of like they like this portion.
I get it. And how many homes do they list? It's when the conversation stops. I hear people like, oh, well, your shit's wordy. I'm like, yeah, how many homes you list a year?
Yeah.
Fucking 20? Like, good. Okay.
Yeah. No, makes sense, man. Makes sense.
In South Florida in our MLS system, I was the top listing agent in the whole MLS system. So it's like out of 20,000 agents. When people are like, oh yeah, I want to do it this way. I'm like, okay, well, do whatever the fuck you want, man. But here's what I know is true is that if you want to do it in high volume, it's got to be systematized. Right. So I think that there's a novel component as far as like the people, as far as perhaps the experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? While I'm with them, because I'll be present with them and, kind of address whatever's coming up for them. But the process that we're following is the same every single time.
Like, so for example, what he's trying to say is that they're like, my husband just died. He's not going to say
Fantastic.
Right.
I wrote down 3 real important questions.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But that's how a lot of people do it.
I literally never asked. I got 3 really important questions. Never say that shit. Because I feel so uncomfortable, because if somebody asks me that type of shit, like...
Yeah, but then you can say it in a different way. It's like, so before we get started, I just have a couple of questions to ask you just to make sure that I'm fully prepared and I can provide you, with the most accurate information and be of the best assistance to you. Would that be okay?
Yeah.
It's just a different
right
approach.
But we were taught a different way.
I know.
So that's why I'm saying those things, and what I'm saying is not in alignment with what the person is reflect like what they want. You know?
Yeah, or what's true for them in that moment.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right, but I can still follow a process.
Yeah.
I think just the process that you were following previously was very abrasive because the person that's teaching it to you is very abrasive and very kind of gruff and blunt and direct. And, you know,
If you like it, great.
if you like it, great. If you don't, fuck you. Like that's, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly.
But what happens is like, you know, instead of learning new things, what people do is they get prideful about the stuff that they already know. And that's dumb. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like doing it, like, you know, that's not really an environment for growth.
Right.
Where it's like, if you want to grow, it's like, I'm trying to figure out
What's going on?
all different ways to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That was my problem. That was my problem with the presentation. I didn't.
Yeah, and then
I asked these
the
questions.
reserves out.
Right.
And you pick those up as well.
Before, you know.
Right.
Do you? I know you're probably gonna go over this tomorrow.
Yeah. So
but
just whatever was on that note on that.
do you ask
checklist,
like the whole like
just that stuff?
here's what's gonna happen tonight sort of thing,
What?
Yeah, I would just say like,
some sort of thing?
yeah, well, you know, the great news is at the culmination of our time together, there are a few potential outcomes. The first, which we seem to be moving in that direction, is that you may decide to list a home with me. And again, I'm very excited to have that opportunity. Myself and team and staff, everybody's standing at the ready to go to work for you ASAP. The second potential outcome, and this one's okay too, you know, there's an outside chance for whatever reason, maybe price, maybe commission, you may decide not to list a home with me, and that's perfectly fine as well. And the third, and this was just as important as the others, Mario, is if for any reason at all, if I honestly truly felt that I would not be able to help you get what you wanted at the time you wanted, I may decide to humbly decline the opportunity to list your home. The reason I would do that is I'd much rather earn your business with integrity, being honest and straightforward about what's reasonable and realistic, versus promising you something I know is not going to happen and not be able to deliver. And any one of those three I feel totally comfortable with. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
It's the same thing.
So you see the backbone, but the approach is a little different.
Yeah, the approach was it.
Instead of like, I may decide not to take your listing, which is like, what?
Yeah, you're like, why would you even say that? Like, I really, like, honestly, like the way that whole presentation is, if someone said those sorts of things to me, it's too confrontational. Like, I'm like,
in, but just make
I
sure.
used to be on the phone like, you don't want to sell your house? Like, oh, like we have the best marketing, we're the number one office. I used to say stuff like that, and no
I appreciate
results
you, man. Thank you
Right.
so much.
for so long, yeah. And
It's just the approach is a little different.
yeah, like even my broker Joe, like I love Joe, right? Jose is great, but don't record that.
You want me to cut?
No, don't just take Joe's name. Anyways, but they always use we're the number one Century 21. That's why you should list with them. And what the hell does that have to do with what you're gonna do to sell the house, you know? And that sort of approach is kind of like how Mike Ferry does it, like, you know. And it was just hard for me to connect like that, so I would just say other things and wasn't getting the results I wanted. My presentation was all over the place, though.
But were you practicing every day?
I was, but I wasn't saying that because I just felt uncomfortable saying like, I got Jose. So I'd like to take before we get started. I'd like to take a look around the house. No, let me show you around. All right, fuck it. You know, show me around. What someone else's house? I'm not gonna tell them like, let me walk around your house. You know, and then from there just kept going down. You know, or the prequel.
Would you ever allow them to take a tour? You take it, and then give you a tour of the property?
No, so when I would walk in, I'd be like, all right, do you want me to take my shoes off? And they're like, no. I'm like, okay, or yes, whatever they said. Okay, great. So what I'd like to do is just take a quick look around the property. Will that be okay? And they're like, yeah, that's fine. And then I'd just start and I would stop. But when I stopped, I would say like, okay, and I'm noticing that the home is really tastefully furnished. So
Would they walk around with you?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm fine with that. Instead of you being like, no, you need to sit here. I need to look at it through the eyes of the buyer. It's like,
So you're saying it's okay to walk around
of
with?
course it is, bro. And when they walk around with me, I'm like, you know, they're going to talk to me about shit. But it gives me an opportunity to start to assumptively close. So when they're walking around with me, I'm like, hey, Mario, I'm noticing that your home is really tastefully furnished. So when we have offers come in, are we going to be including the contents or do you want to take that with you to your next destination? When who has offers that come in?
we have offers.
That's right. And then as you're showing me around and you're showing me all your shit, I'm like, okay. And if I remember correctly, Mario, you don't plan on making any changes or modifications before I start to bring buyers through. You just want me to help you to sell it as it is where it is. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
You see what just happened again?
Yeah, you're already selling. You guys are already working together in hypothetical.
Right. I'm assumptively closing while you're walking around with me.
Welcome back, another episode of Wealthy Creator. I'm your host, Justin Berry, and I have the pleasure with me today, what I'm considering a good friend now. We've been working together for about a year, been consulting on his social media. He was part of the original OGs of Content Empire, which is now Wealthy Creator, and we're still going strong. I have with me Aaron Novello.
Yeah, what's up, brother?
How you doing, man?
It's awesome to have this conversation with you in person. Because we speak on a regular basis, like bi-weekly, and now just to do this in person is great.
Oh, man, it's awesome. I'm so glad you was able to make it. We've been planning on this for about, 6-7 months now, trying to get you in, and it's good. It's WealthCon week this week, so you get to see some of the inner workings of everything and the prep for that. So that's exciting. But yeah, man, I'm happy you're able to come out, truly.
For sure.
So Aaron, I'm gonna jump straight into this thing, man. I want to know, I know you as a great businessman, but I want you to tell a little bit of your story so that people can begin to understand who Aaron is, the person, the businessman, the business owner, and the individual. Tell me more about yourself.
Yeah, so I grew up with individuals that are very kind and loving, but really didn't know anything about money. And I watched what that environment can do, right, with lack of resources and the things that go along with that. And I had a couple experiences in my life where I just made this internal decision, and I don't know if this has been true for you in your life, where you're like, hey, this is unacceptable to me. And I don't know what the way is, but I'm gonna either find the way or make the way. And that led me to bumping into real estate. And what was really interesting is that when I would do those personality profile tests, I'd always try to will them to come back like surgeon. Because I would look at the list and be like, who makes the most money? And they would always come back salesperson. And I would always try to push it away and be like, no, like that's not what I want to do. And I was actually at a talk. I went to school at the University of Florida, and there was a gentleman there who owned the largest gym in Gainesville. So he was a very wealthy individual. He had his own helicopter and all the accoutrements of success. And he was talking about a book called Think and Grow Rich, which I'm sure a lot of people have read and the audience has read, and that was my first exposure to it. And what was true is that there was also this woman who was very attractive, who was an agent, and she was talking about like being an agent. So I was like, I'm in college, I'm like, hey, maybe that's what I should be doing is like becoming an agent. And that just vibed directly with those personality profile tests. And then I just happened to, do well at it. And at the beginning, though, it wasn't like that. I made $13,000 my first calendar year. So not something people would put you on, the Wealthy Creator podcast to teach you how to do that. It's definitely not something people would pay you to coach them to teach you how to do that. I just had an inaccurate assessment of reality. I didn't understand like what the game was and what I should be focusing my time on. And once I got an accurate assessment, it's kind of off to the races. And in 2007, though, I was on track to do about 60 transactions, but my mom had a brain bleed. And in a very short period of time, she was young, she was like 27, I shut down my business immediately within a week, gave away all the listings, all the pendings, and I moved back home. And I started over from scratch. And what was really, I would prefer that didn't happen to my mom, obviously. At the same time, it gave me this internal kind of knowing, which was I had a particular skill set on how to list and sell property in high volume. And that gave me experientially a knowing I can do this anywhere if you just drop me anywhere. So, and then, in that new place, it took me first year did 17, then 50, then 85, then 89, then 100. Did 100 a year for 10 years in a row, 200 deals a year twice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just crushed it after that.
Yeah. And it was really, I think at first it was like selfish because it was about like showing people like I'm the man or I'm really good at this. And what it evolved into though, because I saw what it could do for others. So when my mom had that brain bleed, I was able to buy her condo and pay cash when I was 27 years old.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Like
this isn't about like flexing. This is about I can use this skill or ability to be able to serve other people and help them.
Yeah. So glad you said that because, I mean, you know, our mission here, even in the Boneta company in the wealthy world, you know, it is to serve people, right? Yeah. Like that's what we want to do. We want to enrich communities. And you want to serve people. Yeah. And so hearing your testimony about how you're doing that is amazing. And I 1000% relate. One thing you said earlier before we even get into, you know, the real story, but I want to get into what you talked about, your personality test.
Yeah.
So we use what's called the predictive index for everybody that comes through here, right? And actually when I first started here and they had me take it, it was like my first time actually taking it. I took it at like 11:30 at night.
Real quick. Like,
I didn't care anything about what was going to happen because I kind of, you know, it's funny. In my mind, I was like, I know who I am. I know what I'm capable of. Like, I'm about to just tell the truth on this thing and keep it moving. I didn't overthink it at all. And I came back a persuader.
Really?
Yeah. And so it's funny because I think that personality, I think I came back that way specifically because of my history, one in sports, but I've always been like the captain and the leader and the individual that was kind of like influencing my team. And so I think as a persuader, you know, especially, you know, high school, college, you have to do that, right? Like it's no question. High school, everybody's in there playing around. You have to be the one that kind of not only leads by example, but is able to talk on a level that anybody can understand to get them to do what we're trying to accomplish here. Now, our team was like 4th in the state for 2 years straight, right? And we battled with all of the top teams. So I found that to be like mission accomplished for me as I was ending. I was like, all right, I've lost a total of maybe, I think it was 11 games all 4 years. Yeah. All right. So I did pretty good. Then when I got to college, I was like, oh, I'm starting all over again. All right. And even still, it was like, all right, how can I, you know, get implemented in this new system and this around these new teammates? Some of them are 5th year seniors. So now you're an 18-year-old kid with grown men. Right? Like you're trying to figure out how to, you know, really kind of make yourself a presence in a locker room that already is established. And one way of doing that was, you know, selling yourself to everybody else, letting them know who you are and what you have to offer. Yeah. And so it's funny, like you talked about that, like, you know, you were trying to think, what can I come back as? And you know what that made me do when I came back as a persuader? It made me go check and see what everybody else was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I'm like, all right, Ryan Pineda is successful. All right. And at the time, I didn't know him really. I just knew, like, I mean, I knew about the opportunity. I didn't know him. I'm like, let me check and see what he came back as, because if I'm anywhere near that, okay, I know.
I'm good.
Yeah. Just follow the footsteps, right? Like, and then I start checking everybody else, like that was in leadership roles around the company. And I'm like, okay, what are they? Like, where did they fall on this predictive index? And then I'm like, how true is this thing anyway? So then I actually read it. And, you know, it's so spot on.
Accurate.
So accurate. Like, it's unreal how accurate this thing is. And so, but yeah, I say all that to say, like, you're 1000% right about going and being like, okay, I need to make sure I come back as, you know, a certain thing. But it does help. Not only, it helped me with the confidence to be able to kind of step out and be a leader in positions that I never, like, I had no experience in media. Right, like it wasn't a real thing for me. Like, I didn't look at this like this was gonna be my career. When I was playing ball and when I was doing other things, like that wasn't in the plan. I just had fun doing it on the side, kind of a side hustle if I could make some money. And so I'm saying all that to say, like, you're like, I can totally relate to how you were like, all right, what am I coming back as? It didn't fit what you thought of yourself.
Yeah, and I think what's true is that you can only behave in accordance with the way you see yourself.
Yeah.
That's like, and what's interesting to me about that is, and that applies to social too, because some people say like, oh, I don't do that. That's not my thing. But what they're basically saying to you is that I don't see myself that way.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, okay, how do I work on self-image? Now, part of it is data. So if you take like the predictive index and you know you're a persuader or a captain or a maverick or, you know, whatever your profile is, that helps you to get clarity between the difference between the way I think I am or the way I actually am. So I had a coaching client recently and he's like, hey man, I think that you see me different than I am. I said, that's quite possible. What's also possible, because people pay me to see what's true, is that I see you the way you actually are, not the way you think you are. You see what I'm saying? Not the way you see yourself or the way you would like to be perceived. So by knowing who you are as a person. Like, I know that I'm highly competitive. We probably share that. I know that my need for dominance is high. I know that I want to be put in situations where I can compete and get significance for competing.
Yeah.
So if you know that about yourself, then you can position yourself in situations that you can let your gift out. And what's also true is if I know, let's say I know you're a persuader, now as a leader, that helps me because now I know how to interact with you.
Exactly.
I know how to inspire you. I know how to kind of push buttons a little bit because you're competitive.
Yeah.
So I could be like, hey, bro, like,
Hey.
where you at? And then
Right,
you're like,
right.
what? And then you what? Right?
Yeah, then you going after it.
Yeah.
I mean, it truly is like, and this is for anybody that's listening or watching who is operating a business and not using some type of personality test when they do their hiring, when they, like, even if you already have the established business, go back and make everybody take this test.
Yeah.
Not only does it help you hire, but also helps you with how you manage each individual.
100%.
Right? Like, Ryan knows that if he comes to me and goes, the numbers ain't really doing what they should be doing, that I'm up all night.
Yeah, you're like, excuse me?
Like, he knows that, right? Like, he doesn't, and for the most of the time, you don't have to tell me because I'm seeing it too, right? Like, I'm trying to figure out why something isn't working. And so, but it is true. Like, you can implement those things in your business that help you work while also using it to operate in your own systems.
Exactly. And what I think is so awesome is that we were talking about this off camera. If we go back to you can only behave in accordance with the way you see yourself. What's so beautiful about this kind of journey that both of us have been on at the same time, where your tendency in the past was to be behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And somebody had to cast a vision, Ryan probably, of, hey, you can do this. This is a role you can step into.
Yeah.
But at that time, you didn't see yourself that way. Yeah. And even now what's happening, we were talking like on our last call, and you're like, bro, people are coming up to me and it's weird.
Yeah.
But what's happening is the new version, the new way you see yourself is clashing with the old. And I think with every evolution, I do believe that business is not a material journey. I think it's a spiritual one.
Yeah.
And our comfort keeps us from our calling.
That's
So
good.
there's something that comes right up to it, and it's like, yo, this is really uncomfortable for me. I don't do that's not who I am.
Yeah.
But as you step into that, because you can only behave in accordance with the way you see yourself, as you start to see that more and more, then you behave as that individual, and then that just happens, and it's normal for you, and it's not a big
natural.
deal.
Yeah, and I'm, like you said, we're going through it now, right? Like it was one of those things where you have the opportunity to level up in a way.
Yeah.
Right. And you've been working for the level up, but you haven't been like clear on what that even means or what that like will bring to you. Right. Like you understand, yes, scaling my business is important. I'm gonna do everything I need to do to scale the business. Right. Like you understand that. You get on social media, you're like, okay, I'm trying to drive leads.
Yeah.
I'm trying to grow influence.
Yeah.
I'm trying to grow my downline. I'm trying to, like, there's all these things that come with why you are putting out content. And then there's the moment of, oh no, they're seeing me differently now.
Yeah.
And now I have a responsibility.
Yes.
And I almost owe it to them to give out what is due, right? Like to give them everything that I have, because again, we're coming from the place of I want to serve people.
100%. So the reason I got all excited is I was having a conversation with a member of our team. She's part of our organization, Elite Builders at EXP. And I see her as like a commander. Like she can build and help a lot of people. And she told me a story 3 years ago while we were having dinner. And I said to her out loud, you need to tell that story more often.
Yeah.
But you know what her first response was? I'm not comfortable because I have shame about it. And I'm like, well, instead of having shame, you should be proud of what you've been through. And a lot of people would benefit from that.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think there's a difference between a plan, a strategy. So a plan is like, hey, I want to do this on social. I want to have 10K. I want to do whatever. A strategy is, how am I going to do that? Which you guys can help with.
All right.
More importantly, why? So what I'm aware of, the reason why we're here doing all this is because I know, I was telling my wife this the other day, is there a small part of me that digs it when people recognize me? Sure, I'm human.
You're right. Yeah.
Like, flesh is weak. Like, of course I'm going to be like, oh, that's kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
More importantly, though, I know that as I get more attention, that helps other people grow. That's what I'm aware of. So that's the driving force behind it. And I think a lot of people, it's just my experience, they're just doing content. They're copying other people in hopes that they can get something
that they can get followers from.
Yeah.
And I think that's completely the wrong way to do it. Instead, I think if you're authentic about what you believe, you will pull people towards you, but you will also become polarizing. You will push people away that aren't into your vibe, right? So me and you were talking about, it's about serving people, helping people. There's a whole segment of the business community. It's like, that's lame, dude. This is about making money. It's bottom line. It's profit. So those aren't our people.
Right.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Quick background. Wife and I have 4 young kids, so ages 3 months to 6 years old. And so I'm always tired. And time is very limited for me. I own 3 businesses. One is an education business. One is we've got ownership in 10 rental properties, 9 short-term, 1 long-term. And then my primary vocation, where I spend most of my time, is in wealth and tax consulting. And so we work with lots of different families across the country. Our sweet spot is between families that earn more than $1 million a year or are between 5 and 150 million in net worth. That's just the sort of the spot we lean into, but we work with lots of other families. So anyway, all that. I want to tell you a quick story, and I think Aaron's heard me say this. I heard this several years ago, and it just is big impact for me. So 1989, the Chicago Bulls draft Stacey King. Stacey was a high-flying player out of Oklahoma, and so they pick him with the 6th overall pick in 1989. They're going to pair him with Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan. So they go through training, they go through the summer, and they get to their first game against the Cleveland Cavaliers in November. And Stacey King plays terrible, scores 5 points. So he's in the locker room after the game, and the reporters are all huddled around him, and they stick a microphone in his face and say, Stacey, you got to feel a little embarrassed. All this hype, and you score 5 points in your first NBA game. Tell us how you feel. Stacey pauses for a second. He says, are you kidding me? I'll remember tonight forever as the night that Stacey King and Michael Jordan combined for 59 points. MJ went for 54, right? It's all about perspective. Right? Stacey's perspective in that moment was a lot different than the reporter. So in keeping with the theme around margin, I want to give you at least a different perspective on financial margin. What does that mean? What is it and what is it not? But before I do that, let's set the table and kind of get on the same, I think, foundation together. Most of this would not be uncommon, but I just want to say it, I want to get it in the air. We are in a contractual relationship with money and with society. And I've even heard some of you say it since I've been here. That contractual relationship is that we trade our time for money. And we're okay doing that because we justify it that it's an ends to a means to an end, right? So I'm going to trade my time for money until I get to this age. Or I'm going to trade my time for money until I get to this income level. Or until I get to this asset level, or whatever it is, we justify that trade. But I think, as I've worked with nearly 500 families over the last 13, 14 years, here's what I'm convinced of. There's a much deeper connection to that trade of time for money. And it's that we've actually built most of our value, identity, self-worth around what we do. And if we took out what we do, very few people actually know who they are. And so there is a deep emotional attachment to this trade of time for money. Now, if you're in this room, I guarantee you're good at what you do. Primarily, making a lot of money through real estate, right? But let me tell you why that's problematic. There's a couple of reasons. The first is when we have this justifiable, and it's justifiable, right? Hey, I'm going to trade my time for money as a dad of 4 kids so that we can live the lifestyle that we want to live, right? Society agrees with you. It's okay. So everybody in your corner is just nodding their heads. That's a good trade. Keep doing that. But Because we have a deeper connection of value, identity, and a deep sense of our own self-worth in what we do, we actually also receive a chemical dopamine kick from doing what we're really good at. So not only are we emotionally attached to this trade, we are chemically and psychologically attached to continue to trade our time for money. But then here's the other thing that happens. In the name of creating more wealth, more income, more money, we actually build structures that keep us in that mousetrap forever. So imagine the hamster being the one that builds his own hamster wheel that he then runs around in until he's exhausted. That is what we do, whether we know it or not. So think about it this way. I was a part of a company. I have since left that company for lots of reasons. I was a part of a company that we went from about $900,000 in revenue to just under $4 million in 7 years. And we scaled the company. But every year we had to do new double-digit growth for me to make the same amount of money as I did last year. And at the end of 7 years, I'm like, what the heck? I'm not good with this anymore. Like, why is it that we keep setting record income numbers, but you're requiring more of my time to keep what was good last year? It's because we're actually the authors and creators of those self-circulating, self-restricting structures, because our value is so deeply attached to what we do and where we make income. Now, I'm not a philosopher, so I'm not trying to be overly psychological here, but it's important that we can step back from what is the air that we regularly breathe and acknowledge that what gives us a truly rich life is not the amount of money that we make. And I haven't been on many deathbeds, but I know of no one at the end of life who says, you know what, I had too much time. I should have shaved a little bit off, right? Because the reality is we will continue as successful, entrepreneurial, high-income earners. We will trade our time for money with no limit, meaning that the margin that we had in life gets gobbled up, and we self-justify why we do it, but we do it until we actually eliminate all margin that's in our life. Dr. Richard Swanson wrote a book, he's a medical doctor, called Margin. I recommend it. It comes from a particular Orthodox Christian point of view, but he's got some excellent stuff as a medical doctor on the research around margin. And he defines margin this way. Margin is the difference between our load and our limits. And later on, he cites a study that the evidence is clinically undeniable that the effects of a marginless life are catastrophic, emotionally, socially, relationally, physically, and ultimately financially. So to live a marginless life, which is to have no margin or no time buffer, is to actually live a very poor life in all of the sense of the word. And so what I want to maybe propose, and then I'm going to get into some really specific stuff, and I want to have lots of time for questions. What I want to propose is that instead of interacting with that truth, our contractual relationship of time for money, instead of looking at it in a binary way and saying, I either give more time to make more money, or I get my time back, but now I've got to sacrifice monetarily, lower my lifestyle, lower my expectations. I want to suggest there's a third way. What if you actually got more time and more money simultaneously? What if it was actually about restructuring what you have and what you're doing let me synthesize it this way. What if financial margin isn't actually about making more money?
I would like to thank all you guys here, right? Because I know that you're all working diligently and consistently and persistently to accomplish your goals and objectives. All of our goals and objectives is to help you to accomplish what it is that you're after. And there's two individuals here that I'd like to give a shout out to. One is Jose, because without Jose, I wouldn't be doing what we're doing right now. He had the persistence to keep asking me. The second is the guy who explained it to me and allowed me to be able to see it, which is this guy right here. And Lars also helped me to overcome a mental hurdle, which was to do this 100%. So I'm appreciative of you guys. I think what we're doing is exciting, and the intention is to just keep expanding and keep growing.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. I mean, you guys are under some amazing leadership here. There was a time where it was a weird moment where we were kind of talking on a weekly basis and just, not weekly, every other week we were talking.
Yeah.
Just kind of figuring things out.
Yeah.
What's your priorities and what do you want to focus on? What do you want to be when you grow up? And there was a point at which it got weird where what's the expression where like the student becomes the teacher?
Yeah.
Where he was asking me questions and he was getting inside my head and I'm just like, this is not.
He actually stopped at mid-call. He's like, wait a minute.
You're not doing this. But I hear him talk now and his vision for what, Elite Builders is going to be. This is ground floor. Like you guys will remember, remember like just the 12 of us that were in a room and then there's going to be like 1,200 people that are going to be in a room and it's all going to be your tribe. So it's like, this is like literally ground floor.
Yeah.
And I know you see it clearly.
I do.
Right? I mean, 90% of the growth in my group of 1,600 agents, 90% of it is coming from this group.
Yeah.
That is now like, everything he thinks about is in terms of like, if somebody wants to do attraction, how can I help them build it out in a way where it's going to duplicate? Mm-hmm. And the cool thing is that whatever your goals are around I'll say production, it's production. It'll always be there. You can always go out and sell homes. I've sold a lot of homes. I've coached a lot of people. There's nothing more leverage than this opportunity in terms of, so just try to think of ways, even if you're not focusing on it now, try to think of ways to integrate it into some part of your production because there's just nothing like it. Mm-hmm. It's like, I was anti-MLM as much as you could ever be, but the financial opportunity with this multi-level opportunity is unbelievable. And so, it builds a little, like nobody built to 1,000 agents themselves. There's literally no agent in the company that has 1,000 agents on their front line. There are guys that have 10,000 people in their organization have 50 agents that they recruit. If you think about that.
It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. I bet you Brent only recruited, he probably has turnover, but maybe 150 agents total in his career, and he makes $1 million a month. You wouldn't have a job at another brokerage if you were a recruiter and you only recruited like 200 agents in 6 years.
Yeah.
Like you would not be employed at even 15 grand a month if that was and he gets paid $1 million a month. And all he does is events.
That's it.
Right?
That's it.
So he's a smart guy. And if you ever want to get like mind screwed about like attraction and what it could do, just sit with him even last night you did it.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I'm not all in. Shit.
I'm not.
It's like I cannot sit next to this guy because it makes me realize I still have 1 foot in each.
Yeah.
And so I can't wait till you guys are just like running your own events and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah. The gala's the first of those. So.
Yeah.
Very good. You got anything, Jose?
Yeah, I just like to say thank you to everybody for being here tonight. Thank you to Lars as well too for reaching out to me. It's funny because when I spoke with Lars first, he told me that most people take 8 touches, a minimum of 8 touches, and he gave me like 3 or 4 different touches, and then he was like, "Hey, what are we doing?" And kind of like gave me that little extra push that I needed. For all of you guys here, the crazy thing about this thing, just like they're saying, is you don't need that many people. Like one quarter, I made a goal to bring on 40 agents. I didn't bring on a single agent. The next quarter, I only made a goal to bring on 2 people. And the 2 people were Vicente and Aaron. And I said, I thought to myself, I didn't realize that once I brought those 2 people on, the entire organization would change, meaning like we would have like this crazy amount of leadership happening, and you don't need a lot of agents. Like I think John brought on Lars, and Lars is probably like what, 70, 60, 80% of.
Hey, who's counting? I don't know. He's like 80.
But that could be for anybody.
Anybody.
He's 80%. So you never know. Like a lot of times we think like, oh, we got to go out and talk to like 100 people. Like literally, you bring on one builder, that person can build like the entire organization for you guys. So it's not even like oh, I got to bring on 100. It's like, look, one person can change the organization. Brent Gove, one person.
Wow. She met him in like a 2-minute conversation at like a Star Power event or some like random event. And he didn't even remember her. And she called him up and she's like, I need your opinion on this. Like, we met. And he's like, oh, he's trying to be polite.
And for her, that one person like built out the entire thing. Just same thing with John. John brought on Lars. It's the same thing. So I think just I'm proud of everything that everybody is doing. I see the vision, and I'm here to help in any way that I possibly can.
And you
to
guys
everybody.
have way more support than you even realize. In production and attraction, and if life goes sideways, I'm sure there's not people in your organization that haven't been through everything, or somebody we can connect you with that hasn't been through like whatever you're going through.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely more than real estate.
I'm curious, how do you guys know each other?
So I actually was part of Real Estate B School, was part of their coaching program. And then it was funny because when I told people that I was thinking about EXP, Lars called Angel Garcia, my best friend, and then Angel was like, I'm not interested, but Lars asked him, who do you know that would potentially consider
Like a good
this?
salesperson.
Like just asking for a referral, and Lars said, Jose's actually considering it right now. Wow. But then when I thought about the organization, like there's a lot of people you can pick as partners. I was like, who is no BS, who's ethical, who really knows good looking. Yeah, that was at the very bottom. I'm kidding. No, but and then I there's a lot of people in this industry that will like flaunt like oh, I make $1 million a year, but you look at the bottom line and it's not really what they say that they are. You look at like their lifestyle, it looks flossy, but you look at the money in the bank and there's really nothing there. So I wanted somebody that wasn't like that. Meaning I wanted somebody that like I didn't have to worry about like if he tells me to do something that it was going to put me in a bad financial position or any of us. Not only that, but I think what I thought about when I joined, I was like, okay, like we need a leadership team and we need different people that are going to provide different things to the company. And I was like, if somebody wants to build a team, there's no better person than Lars to help you do that. If somebody wants to become the best listing agent, I don't think that there's anybody else better than Aaron to help you do that. So the vision was to have different people that are the very best at what they do and then put them together in one organization when they can help everybody on the team to accomplish whatever it is that they want to accomplish. I think my gift is probably social and maybe investing. So if somebody wants to learn about investing or somebody wants to learn about social, I can help with that. So it was kind of like, okay, different people that can help with everybody. Like Brian's helping the Spanish speakers as well too. So there's different people, the leadership team. So that was kind of the vision with it. But
you guys still have to get Angel.
Angel? Yeah.
We're working on him.
We're working on him, to be honest. That's off camera, but
yeah.
You are.
It's off camera.
He's actually a lot closer than you think. Yeah.
The Tuesday production masterminds are great too for.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. So thanks for doing that.
Yeah, that's a great thing to just invite. Even if you don't think you're going to do attraction, just become the agent that invites all your friends to the Tuesday calls.
Yeah.
Because they don't have to be an EXP for that to happen. Okay.
No,
and then Thursdays are new with Chad.
Yeah, those are technically, you're not supposed to be outside of our group to go to those, but the Tuesday call is for everybody.
Yeah.
So, I love
Yeah,
it.
Mark Giosa posts those on our story, so I did the same thing. I told him that.
Yeah, but we couldn't be proud of the upline that we have. To be
Yeah,
quite
we're
honest.
legit.
Like, to be honest, like, if I hadn't selected you as a partner, Aaron would have never gone full time in this opportunity because you had certain conversations with him that challenged the way that he thought. And then I'm going to be going full time in a year and a half. So I had not seen Aaron do it. I probably wouldn't have done it. So I'm guessing that'll have a ripple effect in the organization where eventually other people get to a point where they're full time as well too into the opportunity. So
I was in the Icon Lounge today and I met a lady. She was 65 years roughly. And she said, I've Iconed 6 times. She said, I'm a mentor. And she said, and I'm being pulled so many directions. And I said, well, what about your support? Who's above you that you can seek for help? And she said, I have no one. And it occurred to me, just what you just described, your vision, and what we do have, is really rich.
Yeah.
It's an amazing opportunity.
I agree.
We're in the right place at the right time.
With the right people.
and we do take feedback, like, so for example, like the feedback that you were giving us earlier today about having like a mastermind whenever we come to these events, like I think we're just so like entry level in it. And I think what Lars said about it, that like it's one day we'll look back and be like, hey, look, remember that room when it was just 12 of us in that suite when Lars was in that room?
John said the other day he's only been with the company 3 years. How long have you been with the company?
3 years and 3 days.
3 years, man.
No, 3 days less than that.
Yeah.
So September 11th, he was September 8th.
Right. So you see what I'm saying? Like, this is not like, I think in your mind you imagine like, oh, it's going to take like 20 years. No. It can happen in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
Because of how leveraged the opportunity is, the fact that it compounds, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's crazy because, like, at least the way I've seen it, because I've been a little bit longer than most of everybody.
Because you've been with the company 3 years.
I've been with the company, like, I think right when Lars joined, probably like within 3-4 months, I was. And it's funny because probably when Lars brought me on, he probably didn't think nothing of it at that time. He's just like, oh,
I didn't know what to think at the beginning. I was just praying that
it worked.
Like he just brought another agent, but what he didn't realize is that I had a relationship with a guy that can build like crazy. So sometimes you never know who you bring on. Like that one person that like you bring on, it's like, oh, whatever, you know? That person could have a relationship to the other individual that helps build the entire organization for you. Like, which that's the crazy part about this opportunity. Yeah, like had he known that I knew Aaron or Aaron was gonna be who he was gonna be, dude.
Oh my gosh. You know what's funny? I've done hundreds of expired listing phone calls. I've never asked that question the way you just asked it.